Welcome to the School of Wordcraft and Worldmancy. This is Feedback Frenzy.
Hello, I'm WriterGreg, and welcome to the School of Worldcraft and Worldmancy. It's time for another Feedback Frenzy, and if you would like to have your 1,500 words of fiction or a world-building article critiqued, you can submit it through the Google form found at wgc.bz/submit, where it will be featured in a future Feedback Frenzy episode on Twitch, or as a highlight, or as a YouTube video. So thank you so much for being here. Let's get to work. This article that was submitted today is the Amber Production article written by James Woodwright for his Future Scene World on World Anvil. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at that. All right, pretty straightforward. Looks like it's a default template here with a very nice background. And you're here, James. Glad to have you in the chat. All right, so the side... Okay, all right. Image references, good. Oh, thank you for all of the links here. Very nice picture of Amber. I like that you have that there so we can have a better visual, and it kind of matches the thing. All right, so let's get into this. Amber production. Amber is a fossilized tree resin that was prized for many parts of human history because of its color. It can be found in the UK in Norfolk and Suffolk. But this is the amber that has been created naturally. Amber can be created using technology. There are two methods for creating amber. One makes artificial amber, which is a safer method, however. Bakelite cannot be manufactured due to the Great Rewind, as it requires crude oil as parts of its manufacturing process. The other method can be dangerous, as it can create fires that don't go out with water but require carbon dioxide to be extinguished. As this is the only other known process to make amber apart from mining it is Suffolk and Norfolk it is used. This method is preferred as it makes amber that looks no different to its natural counterpart, as it has some of the debris that occurs in the natural version. This is because the sap that is taken from trees has debris in it that is hard to refine out of the raw material, so it is included in the final product. Okay, so let's take a look at this new this introduction. Okay, it has a lot of information, and it does kind of bounce around in different places of what you're trying to say. Thank you, James, for the link in the chat of what is being read right now. Amber production. Now, it's good to know that this article is about amber production, but I am also glad that you are providing an explanation of what amber is and where it can be found. The sentences could be a little bit tighter. I like the first sentence. It's good. It can be found in UK and Norfolk, but this is amber that has been created naturally. This second half of the sentence really doesn't need to be there. You could say it much more simply, just saying natural amber can be mined in the UK near Norfolk and Suffolk. Okay, you can just say natural amber instead of the word it. And that way you don't have to use that whole sentence. It'll be tighter, it'll be cleaner. The reason why I like shorter sentences is because they are much easier to read, faster to read, and less complicated. Having a much longer sentence such as this increases the difficulty of reading, the grade level of education required to have something read. So I would recommend shortening this sentence and just say natural amber can be found, can be mined, okay, because that tells us that it's naturally made. It has to be mined, it has to be collected. Now, does it have to be mined? I don't know. Is this a mineral that has to be dug for? I'm not sure. Found may be the right word. Mined tells us a little bit more about the process. So I'm not sure which word would be better, especially because I could be wrong about amber needing to be mined. But when we talk about petrification, I usually think of mining. Okay, now here, this is less of an introduction, and this is starting to talk about the concept of here that we're here for, talking about amber production. And here you use two different methods of describing how amber is made. I would recommend having some subheaders in here. You can talk about like a header 2 or a header 3, depending on your choice. You could say, all right, amber can be used creative technology. There are two methods. Okay, you can just say, there are two methods of creating artificial amber. Okay. And it, one safe and one more dangerous. And then you can have a header, and then you can describe the first method and why it was rejected. You can do the second method with a second header, how it's used, and why it was rejected, or or it wasn't rejected because it's the only option you have because the first method requires crude oil. Okay. And you do have this third paragraph here explaining why the second method is preferred. This is a good paragraph explaining, and this could just follow after the two sections explaining that. This method is preferred as it makes amber look no different to its natural counterpart. Okay, then you can go, period. This is because it has some debris. The same as the natural version. Okay? In Burdencaster. All right, so now we're going to get into the world and how it does it. On the outer parts of Burdencaster, segment 12 is a segment of the forest industry. Instead of cutting the trees of this segment, they harvest the sap of the pine trees. They picked this segment because this is the one that contains the sawmill in the same segment. This makes it easier to remember which segment is used for collection, melting, shaping, and finishing sap. The sap from pine trees is collected as it can be made into amber. It can be collected in all parts of the year, but production increases in spring and early summer. Okay. Okay, so which is a more important thing in this article? How it's done or where it's done? Because here in Burdencaster, you talk about the technology that's being used, and then you jump straight into here on where the factory is. Is that the most important thing to talk about at the beginning of the article? I would suggest maybe you could move the description of the factory down to lower in the article, because this is more about the production. Where it is and stuff like that, where the factory is may not be important and might kick people out, meaning people might stop reading the article because why is he talking about where the factory is? I want to know about how the amber is made. Okay, so that would be a recommendation to move it to the end. But see, this thing, when it's talking about sap is collected, made into amber, it's collected all parts of the year. Okay, production. What kind of production? The production of the amber or the production of the sap? I would like to have a little bit more clarification here, because if we're talking about the collection of the sap, yes, that definitely will increase during the spring and summer as the sap rises. But is the production of the amber more in the spring, in the summer? Or could they just, it's consistent all year round, they just have a really big backlog of sap that they collected in the spring and the summer, and then it takes all summer and winter to work through what they collected in the spring. So there is a difference between sap collection and amber production that you may want to clarify here. The sap collector is the person who collects the dried sap from pine trees in the forests of Zone 5. This sap is collected all year round. Really? More members of the amber production crew can be put on the roll in spring and early summer to keep up with the tree's production of sap. Okay. I'm going to believe you on this. The sap is collected all year round because I don't know anything about that. I only know about maple syrup and how they collect the sap for maple syrup in the springtime. That isn't, if it is possible to collect sap year round, you know what? I'd like to learn more about that, because here you're talking about who they are, when they work, and how to get more people. And then you separate it into 250-gram batches to be melted. James says, future me, recheck. Okay. I would like to know a little bit more about how they do it. Do they tap the trees? Do they drill a hole? Do they squeeze out the sap? I'd like to know more about how the sap collector does it, and how is it the same as or different from maple syrup sap collection? Because that's where you can get into whether it's only in the spring or or it is year round. Do they change methods in the spring and have different methods than they do in the summer and the fall? Sap melter. The sap melter is the person who inserts the sap to be melted in a mechanical device. This melts the sap by keeping an open cube of copper over a flame for a few seconds and moves it away and back again until it is melted. Okay. I don't think you need the until it's melted. We're in a section that's talking about melting. You're saying that this melts the sap. So I don't think that you need until it is melted at all. You could just end the sentence to moves it away and back again. This is because the sap can easily catch fire. These fires do not go out with water, but rather carbon dioxide. The job of the sap melter is to supervise the sap that is melting, as well as adding new sap to be melted as a part of the 250-gram batch. Okay. When the batch itself is melted, it is poured onto aluminum foil and put into a vacuum chamber to remove the pressure and air. This also makes the amber not tacky if it were left out of the vacuum chamber to cool down. It is the sap melter that becomes sap collectors in spring and early summer to keep up with this sap collection. Okay, that's a good thing to know there. And it ties back to, sorry, it ties back to the collector. I like that. The Department of Redundancy Department. And yeah, and that's when you get the first draft, you can have all the redundancies in the world. That's why we have second, third, fourth, fifth drafts, is to find those things like the Department of Redundancy Department. The resulting cold stone will behave like amber that is found occurring naturally. The aluminum will be easy enough to remove from the amber, and the block or blob will be broken into chunks. These chunks look like uncut gemstones, which are then reshaped by the the sap formers to make various shaped stones of amber for jewelry. The stones are then sold to the warehouses. The table below displays the type and price the warehouses is willing to pay for each stone. The the warehouse is willing to pay? It's the warehouse that's willing to pay. Okay, so that's interesting. It's the warehouses who have to take the burden of the inventory and laying out the cash for it. So the sap collectors don't care. I mean, the sap, the amber farmers don't care about a lot of stuff because the warehouses just buy them. Interesting. All right. Okay, fun article. What's awesome about this? I did not know amber could be produced artificially. Um, I do like how you found two methods for creating the artificial amber and how one of them can't be done in your world. Sorry. Yeah, I like that. Bored, despite my yawning, not bored. Confused. There is a little bit of confusion that I have with my pre-existing knowledge of maple syrup sap. There's a little bit of confusion due to some grammar issues. Um, is jewelry really the only reason? That's more of an expand. Okay. Um, delete. No, I wouldn't delete anything. Expand. Yes, there are lots of things I could do for expanding. Creating the subheaders here describing the two methods and why one of them was rejected and one of them was used. So I'd definitely expand on that. I'd move the factory to the end and so that we can have more information about the factory, where it is, how it proceeds. Is it, what's its production? How much amber does it produce? How long does it take to produce each of these? Each of these items? Do they ever pour into molds, or they just, pour it onto aluminum foil? And can they recycle? Or if a piece of amber, you want to recycle it, or if you just have a lot of amber dust laying around, can you remelt it and pour it again so that you're not wasting the amount of sap that you have collected? Yeah, a lot of fun possibilities with that. All right, so thank you so much, James, for sharing this with me. I really do appreciate you sharing this Amber production. I hope the feedback was helpful and look forward to seeing more of your world from Future Scene. Thank you all for joining me here for the Feedback Frenzy. I do hope that you will join me next time where we will read 1,500 words of fiction or a world building article that had been submitted at wgc.bz/submit. Until next time, thank you so much. Have a great day and keep on writing.
Thanks for watching this Feedback Frenzy. Be sure to show your support by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell. WriterGreg offers coaching sessions to help bring your world to life, create compelling stories, and accomplish your creative goals. Please visit wgc.bz/coaching for more details.